Thank you. I'm delighted and slightly terrified to have followed Yancey because I have quite a lot of examples in my slides that come from Kickstarter. So, at least we broadly agree, and I totally agree with the importance of the role of love in what it is that you're doing, which is perhaps unexpected since I spent 10 years as an investment banker, and that's not an emotion you associate with us. The curve came about because, like Yancey, and again, unexpectedly for an investment banker, I care a lot about whether or not art will continue to get made, even as the price of everything is trending towards free. I care about music still being made. I care about books being made. I care about fine art being made. I care about games being made. And I will arm wrestle anybody who says that games aren't art. Good, excellent. So I want to answer this question. How do we make money when everything is going free? Because I've written a book, and on top of that, Penguin made a 2-minute video which explained most of my ideas. I'm going to show that, because then you'll get the idea really quickly, and then I can drill a bit deeper into that. So if we can run the video, my daughter calls it the dancing penguin video, and only wants to watch the first 3 seconds of it.
How do you make money when everything is going free? If you make music or games, books or television, you've been struggling with this for years. But what about those of you who make swimming pools, or flour, or manufacture lemon squeezers in China? Free is coming to you too, as digital printing and 3D manufacturing brings casual piracy to the world of physical products. Are you scared yet? You should be excited too, because the thing that is destroying the value of everything you hold dear is also giving you an unprecedented chance to build your business or to finance the creation of your art. To understand that, you need to understand the curve. The curve is a new way of seeing the world that shows us not to be afraid of giving some things away for free. Your customers and fans are getting things for free, legally or illegally, anyway, and this is your opportunity. Because the web allows you to build one-to-one relationships with those customers and fans. It allows newcomers to experience what you do for free, while allowing your biggest supporters to spend lots of money on things they truly value. And as customers and fans ourselves, the curve shows us how our relationship with the artists, creators and companies we love is about to change, allowing us to focus on the things that we really value. The curve comes in 3 parts. Use free to find an audience. Use technology to figure out what that audience values and to move them along the curve from freeloaders to superfans. And let your biggest fans spend lots of money, and I do mean lots, on things they really value. The curve solves the pressing problem of the digital age, how to make money when everything is tending towards free. I'm Nicholas Lovell. Join me to explore the curve.
There you are. I don't need to talk anymore. So, while the dancing penguin finishes, a lot of my background is in games, and those of you who have iPhones or iPads or Androids will be very familiar with free games that exist there. And I talk a lot to people who don't work in the games industry. They work in books or movies or film, and they say things like this: you can't make money from apps. We've got to make people start valuing content again, and I deserve to be paid for my work. And my short answer to those is yes, you can, no, you can't, and no, you don't. They don't like that last one. You have to earn the right to be paid for your work, and that is a very different thing. And I want to talk in the next 10 minutes about what it takes to earn that right from your freeloaders and your superfans and everybody in between. First, a couple of misconceptions. Free doesn't mean doesn't make any money. These are the top grossing games on the App Store earlier this year. Candy Crush Sagas makes about $200 million a year. Clash of Clans and Heyday, numbers 2 and number 5, free, make lots of money, and Supercell, the company behind them, just sold a 51% stake for $1.5 billion earlier this week, which has helped the publicity of my book no end, so I'm very grateful to them. These are the top 30. Of the top 30, there are 22 games, and 20 of them are free. If you add in the other free apps, 25 of the apps on the App Store that make the most money are free. So free doesn't mean it doesn't make any money. It might mean it doesn't make any money in the way we used to make money, but that's a very different thing. So the secret, the way I look at this, is you have to flip your thinking. The web has made it possible to share stuff very, very easily. Media businesses are basically built to solve the difficult problem of moving content around. just turns out that content isn't difficult to move around anymore. Still difficult to create and expensive to create, but not so difficult to shift around. I have a blog called GAMESbrief. 20,000 people read it every month. It's on the quite narrow niche of the business of games, particularly free-to-play. And in the old world, I've had to build a magazine and solve distribution and find advertisers, and now I can just write it in my living room, in my underpants if I want to, and publish it to 20,000 people. I don't. I'm sorry for putting that mental image in your head. I don't, but I could. And the important bit is that I'm building one-to-one relationships with customers. I'm using free to find an audience, and I'm building a relationship with these people that enables me to talk to them again and again. And that's the heart of my new way of thinking of the world. The web's made it possible to make those communications cheaply. It's given us that advantage, as it has taken away the advantage that we had, which was that once we had solved the scarce and difficult problem of distribution, we could charge a premium for that. And I don't believe that you can anymore. So here's how I think of the curve. Sometimes it's very difficult to label, because this is everybody in the entire world ranked by how much they want to give you for whatever it is that you do. The slightly depressing realization is that of the 7 billion people in the world, pretty well nobody wants to give you any money. But that's okay, particularly as it's now really cheap to reach them. So over at the left-hand end might be the Sultan of Brunei, who would happily give you £1 million for whatever it is that you did if you happen to interest him. And what we tend to do in the pre-digital age was focus on a single point, go, it's going to be $10, and try to maximize the number of people we could appeal to at that price point. And now I'm saying that you're going to give a lot away for free, and what you have to do is figure out how to enable people to spend at different price points along that curve. So this end, the free and the cheap end, is the marketing opportunity. And indeed, that's one of the reasons why I think this is not something which we can fight. It's not that suddenly millions or billions of teenagers don't want to pay for music, although I suspect we all pirated music a bit when we were young. It's that they don't have to, and it's not what they value anymore. And the real threat is our competition figuring out how to give them that stuff for free and make money elsewhere, not the fact that we can fight this consumer behaviour and everybody wanting to be pirates. It's very hard to persuade governments to legislate when the issue isn't people stealing from me, but competitors are giving stuff away for free and I don't like it. That's a hard thing to fight against. The other end of the curve is the revenue opportunity, and it's about finding the superfans. Now, just to be clear, I don't think this is just a true fan strategy. This is about using free, finding superfans, and having everybody in between. So the curve is about, first of all, these three things. Find an audience. Use technology to figure out what they value, and to be able to talk to them again. And allow the superfans to spend lots of money. And that's where Kickstarter, an example from Kickstarter comes in. So firstly, freeloaders. If you work in traditional media, I'm talking a lot about media, it applies to a lot of other industries, but it's much easiest to understand through the lens of entertainment and knowledge. A freeloader is basically a dirty pirate. That's your basic mental model, and your job in life is how do I turn a freeloader from being a freeloader into a paying customer? And my argument is you don't need to, and that's okay. Some people will spend, others won't. Embrace both. Freeloaders have value. You can obviously advertise to them if you're a mass market business, or sell advertising to them rather. They have a very powerful sense of word of mouth. If people love what you do, 70% of people who've played Candy Crush, who's played Candy Crush in the room? Put your hand up if you play Candy Crush. Who's higher than level 100 at Candy Crush? Level 200? Level 208? Don't like you anymore. Okay, that's as far as I've got. Those people, 70% of people who have finished all 450 levels of Candy Crush have never spent a cent. It's one of the most profitable games, or the highest revenue-generating games on the planet. So those people provide social context, they provide word of mouth, they talk to their friends. I am particularly surprised how many of the mothers of my friends' children are playing Candy Crush. I actually have something in common with them. I can talk about games with them now, which is fantastic. There's another area, potential converts. I want to shoehorn this story in simply because I'm being followed by a sailor. I am an amateur sailor. I love sailing. And a few years ago, I was about to go on a big sailing trip, 4 months, and I was spending a lot of time in a chandlery that's now gone bust on Piccadilly. And I was in there following a chap around this. He had this filthy black T-shirt on. He was very heavily overweight, and this T-shirt seemed designed to emphasise rather than de-emphasise the gut. And he had this bottle, which was once Evian or Volvic or something, with a thick black sludge in the bottom. And every so often he would take the lid off and spit from his chewing tobacco into the top of this bottle. Very accurately, I was impressed. But I would have kicked him out of the shop. and I was behind him in the queue, and he took out a black Amex and spent £20,000 in front of me. And I just went, I'd have lost all of that money. Good job I don't run a chandlery. But what that means is that you never know who your best customers are going to be. In my world of games, people don't spend any money at all for the first 10, 20 times. The best customers might not emerge for months. And our old model was say, let them in for a bit. If they don't pay up really quickly, they can all leave. And I don't think that we need to do that because it doesn't cost us anything to service them. But the final category, I'm trying to remember if I kept this slide, I didn't, I dropped it. The final category of freeloaders is gawkers. Our consumption, the things we value, take place in a social context. You are here for many reasons, but one of the reasons you're here is because you're the kind of people who go to Wired conferences. And you want to be able to say that to people. And when this video goes up online and other videos go up, and you can say, I was there. There is a social context that matters. And the freeloaders provide the social context within which people spend. The free consumers of a band mean that the people who went, well, I went to their gig, I knew them before they were famous, I own the physical artifact that says something about them, is more valuable the more free people there are who understand that. To take a very simple physical world example, I'm sure the engineers at Ferrari could make their cars quieter and less yellow if they wanted to. But that gawkiness matters. So having accepted that you don't just want to say, if you're not going to pay, leave, you then move on to the world of technology. And what the technology is enabling us to do is two things. It enables you to understand what your audience values, whether or not that's by analytics, which is what games are full of these days, or whether or not it's from experimentation. Look at any Kickstarter campaign and you can see a whole bunch of different things that the artists and creators believe you might value. And some of those tiers don't sell anything. And all it cost them was a bit of creativity and ideas to put it up there and see if that worked. That's the sort of thing that this new distribution enables us to do, to experiment cheaply. And the second thing is that you need to earn the right to talk to your customers again. And I think that is really important. We're moving into an era which is not about products or services or experiences. It's about audiences and our relationship with them and how much right we have earned to communicate with them. The content marketing industry, which is basically pointless if what it's trying to do is compete with people who make and sell content for a living, is not pointless at all if what it's trying to do is say, you have enjoyed my content, you have connected with my brand, now let me talk to you again in ways that we both value. And some people will just look at the viral, laugh at it, move on, and they consumed it as content. But its purpose needs to be to start connecting with people and moving them along the curve. And that leads to the third group, the superfans. And what do you do with superfans? You let those who love what you do spend lots of money on things they truly value. And that love word is really, really important. Because we're not saying that people will pay for content. I'm anticipating they're going to get it for free. They're paying for how that content makes them feel. Personally, how the content talks to them, how it makes them display stuff. People pay for different clothes to say something about themselves. I still wear cufflinks and a banker-style shirt, even though I work in games. Say, I used to know stuff about money once. It helps for consulting. You also need to let people spend lots of money. You don't know how much somebody loves what you do, but there are some people out there in the games world spending 10 times what they used to, 100 times what they used to, 1,000 times what they used to. And it's really, really important that you enable people to have that variable pricing. And it's really important that they value it. If you're building relationships, you can't rip them off because they won't come back and they won't tell their friends. Does anybody know who this is? Not the Cookie Monster, the other one. Tim Schafer? No, you're not gamers. So Tim Schafer made point-and-click adventures in the 90s, a very successful genre. And then Call of Duty and first-person shooters and shooting people in the head came and took over. And the kind of inventive, thoughtful games he made, publishers turned around and went, we're not interested in that anymore. Or at least the market isn't. And he said, well, what if I had a way of talking to the people who used to love my stuff? What if there was a way of them to give me money? And so he turned to Kickstarter. And he said, I want to make a game. It's going to be called Double Fine Adventure. I don't know very much about what it is yet, but it's going to be like my old games, but now. And for $15, you could pay to get the game when it comes out. Well, actually, what you're paying for is to create something you wanted to exist, and then you got the game. You could pay $30 for the documentary, $100 for a high-price book, $1,000 to be painted in the style of the game, and for $10,000, you could have lunch with Tim Schafer and Ron Gilbert yourself. And those sold out really quickly. In the first day, he targeted 400,000. That was definitely not 2 minutes. I've got the flashing thing going on. He got $3.3 million, and I now have to give you my analysis really, really quickly. So there were 87,000 pledges. 48,000 people pledged at $15, unsurprisingly, a small bump at $100, and the rest were a rounding error. That's when you count by number of people, the old pre-digital way. When you count in a variable pricing model, turns out those $100 people who you thought was a small blip were a third of the revenue. That top end of people, really, really valuable. The people who were previously, you thought, more than half your audience, only 20% of the revenue. So, because I was a banker, I did a lot of analysis, and it's that bottom line that was really, really interesting. The people who paid more than $100 for a video game, the people who steal stuff and pirate it and torrent it and bitch about how expensive Grand Theft Auto is, paid $100 as part of making this thing happen. And it's not just digital. Flour is the least digital product I could imagine. King Arthur Flour is now the second largest miller in the US as a result of a curve strategy. At the free end, it has a YouTube channel which shows you that if you scoop flour into a cup and pour it out, you'll get 20% more flour than you expected, which is extremely bad for your choux pastry recipe. They have recipes and guides and how-tos on the web. They have a phone line where you can call up some helpful bakers. You say, my choux pastry recipe isn't working. And they say, did you watch our video? They sell flour in shops, as you'd expect. They now are the second largest brand with $100 million in turnover. They sell recipe books. They sell rolling pins. I was surprised to discover rolling pins are more expensive than recipe books. And at the top end, for $500, you can travel to the headquarters in Vermont and spend a day learning how to make the perfect choux pastry. Admittedly, you could have just watched the video, but you can go and spend a day there. And you go back away from that going, I am now connected with this King Arthur flour. When people ask me, what's the secret of your baking? You go, King Arthur flour, watch the video, go on the courses, it's wonderful. It's a curve strategy which drives the sale of flour while also enabling you to have free people, superfans, and everybody in between. This is my last slide. So my message to you is love your freeloaders. They matter, they provide context, and you should love them. Love your superfans. They matter, they provide money, and you should love them. Love everybody in between, because you don't know who's going to be which. I love you all. Thank you very much.